The Weekly Roundup!
Yes, the Weekly Roundup. We're going to be talking about the current affairs that have happened in the last week, from the announcement for the bracket system, to some card prices, to some tournament results, and of course, Aether Drift. I'm going to be doing a little bit of a rundown every week on this. It's a new segment for me, so let me know what you think. Always keen to hear feedback. If you do like stuff like this, be sure to hit subscribe. I am a relatively new channel, so I love to see the support. It lets me know I'm doing something right. Starting off with the EDH bracket system. Unless you've been living under a rock and haven't heard or seen my video on the topic, we've been waiting from Wizards of the Coast to hear about what their plans are for the new future for Commander. They took over in October last year and basically left us in the dark, saying that they were making some plans. Doing a little scheming, if you will. Now we have heard back from them at last, and the consensus is... oh, okay, there's 5 brackets now. Alright, I guess that's cool. What do I think of it? I actually don't mind it, if I'm being honest. I don't think it really changes how I play with my friend groups already. Generally speaking, we kind of self-police ourselves already. We don't really rely on a rule set or anything. My partner, she runs Mana Crypt pretty shamelessly. In her, my deck is a 7 deck, and we kind of just don't mind. I think this will mainly benefit people playing with strangers. It ended up being 5 brackets instead of 4, as Wizards originally hinted to, but I think my predictions based on what we could expect, relatively accurate, honestly. I don't want to toot my own horn, but I think I kind of nailed it, honestly. If you haven't seen it, I will shamelessly plug it again. Cade, my editor, will put a video up here you can go to after this video. The community reception to the EDH bracket system has been predictably mixed. I don't think I've ever seen Commander players fully agree on anything. Some of the cards in what they've called the new game changes. This is a list of cards that effectively you're only allowed to have a limited number of them in certain brackets. That would be brackets 2, I think. These range from cards you probably recognize to cards that, in my opinion, probably don't really need to be there. There has been a lot of talk about cards getting unbanned. I've seen Primeval Titan mentioned. For those of you who haven't played with Prime Time, this is something you probably don't want. I'm sorry. Nothing good will come out of a card like that entering Commander. Also, there's been people speculating on cards like Dockside Extortionist. If you had any Dockside Extortionists on you that you couldn't sell off when it dipped, now might be your time, because this card has holy hell spiked. You might think that Wizards of the Coast have hinted that they're going to unban Dockside Extortionist. No, they haven't. People are just that crazy about speculating that they've decided that Dockside Extortionist is going to be unbanned. Please do not buy this card. I do not think it will be unbanned, and if it is, it definitely will not be allowed in your average Joe formats. I don't think it will be a game changer. It's probably a bit better than a game changer, but who am I? Wizards could do anything, and maybe that's why people are buying into it. In other financial news this week, we also saw a few Aether Drift cards hitting the market and making a big splash. In particular, the standout is Ketramos, the New Dawn. If you had any copies of this card, you are going to be laughing, because man, this guy has gone up right to $55 US. I'm seeing it climbing still. There are people buying this thing for as much as $60. Is it worth that much? That's up for you to decide, because people are playing this card in Modern. There was a Modern tournament earlier this week where Ketramos popped up in an Esper list, using it with Abhorrent Oculus, another card that you might be familiar with from Duskmourn. Turns out, when you cast Oculus and exile 6 cards, you get almost all the way to being able to activate Ketramos. And that itself has been enough to really bring it to the forefront in an Esper list. Outside of that, Simulacrum Synthesizer is popping up, going up nearly 30% in the last week. It's definitely appearing in a few Azorius artifact strategies with all the new Affinity for Artifacts cards. Whether or not it stays, we'll see. As I've said in previous videos, Simulacrum Synthesizer is the kind of card that it's always been on the fringes of really breaking the game, but has never really been able to break through. There is a new refurbishing pod deck that's using Simulacrum Synthesizer and a plethora of 2-mana artifact to basically use those 2-mana artifacts, sacrifice them, and then go get the Simulacrum Synthesizer, which is giving it a lot of consistency. Maybe, with enough time, we'll see a new Azorius deck using Simulacrum Synthesizer in Tier 1. That would be a nice change of pace. Outside of that, Bright Glass Gearhulk is our standout Gearhulk of the week. This card is popping up in a Selesnya list, very similar to the Selesnya Cage deck from the previous standout standard meta. It's being used to tutor for a lot of different 1-drops. Paw Patch Recruit probably being one of the top ones, because you can not only pay for one, you can also use it for its offspring, so you're effectively getting a really powerful 3-drop with your Bright Glass Gearhulk. People are grabbing the Dusk Heart. I can't remember what the name of it is on the top of my head, but the 1-mana white artifact that banishes something basically until it leaves the battlefield. Lava Spur Boots, interestingly, as a one-off, where people put it in the deck to attach to the Gearhulk they just brought in so that they can swing for damage. There's some really creative stuff going around with this one. In other news, we've had Aether Drift for almost a week now, and we've been watching what the meta has been doing. If any of the new cards are making a splash. I've already talked about a few cards that started going up in value that are definitely finding home. However, we haven't really seen any brand new decks hit the top of the ladder. Right now, if you take a look, primarily dominated by Mono Red, Domain, Dimir, Esper, the usual suspects. And many of these decks aren't actually really changing their game plan much. Azurius is starting to pop up in that Simulacrum Synthesizer deck we've been seeing, and I've been having a massive amount of success with an Izzet Monument deck. I've hit high Mythic with it, but I might actually do a little deck tech on it if people are interested in it. I do think it has the potential to be a very powerful deck. It's quite similar to the one I shared in a previous video, but a little different. This is pretty normal to not see anything too groundbreaking in the first week. A lot of people in the high ladder are generally a little bit reluctant to try new decks when their points are on the line. We'll be really eagerly watching tournament results come in to really get a handle on what is going to break the meta. I do think there's potentially something in here. I think all it will take is one brave soul to bring forward a new deck, and I think everyone will jump on it. Quite like the Pixie Bounce deck we saw. But that's it for the meta roundup. I think next week we'll have some very interesting insights to share. Last week, we also had a new Secret Lair set drop, filled with various artists and Hatsune Miku, if you're interested in that. A lot of people criticize this set, and I would probably tend to agree that the value in these sets, strictly speaking from a card point of view, has been pretty low. A lot of people really are into the art of the sets, which totally get. I think there's some really gorgeous art there. But we've only seen 2 Secret Lairs sell out, and that is City Styles and Jesper Edgesing, who is an artist, pretty well-known magic artist. But yeah, these 2 Secret Lairs are the only 2 that sold out. I'm still a bit iffy on the whole print limited runs. Having said that, the Jesper one almost entirely sold out because it has Deflecting Swat in it. No other reason at all, if you ask me, given the fact that I think they're all quite aesthetically pleasing. The City Styles Dress to Kill, I think, is the top tier one of the bunch, which is, you know, if anyone was going to buy pretty cards, I think that's the one to go. Again, the Jesper one, 100% just because of Deflecting Swat. Every other Secret Lair, the cards have been kind of meh. I know there's one with the Murktide Regent in it, done by the guy who did the original first edition Charizard art, which is kind of cool. Again, I'm personally not going to be getting any of these, but power to you if you are. And then finally, Tarkir Dragonstorm is the next Magic set that's going to be coming out. In the next couple days and weeks, we'll start to see spoilers from it. They've already teased a new red Sarkhan creature and a colorless Eugene, or Yugen Planeswalker. We don't know what they do yet. It's quite like what they did with the Aether Spark, where they just show the pretty art of the card and you have to guess what the text is. Hopefully Eugene is going to be a bit more impactful than the Aether Spark has been, but time will tell. And then as a last, thank you to you watching the video. This channel, we only started about a month ago, and we've already seen such an incredible amount of support. I think we've hit like over 3,000 views in our first month, which I'm gonna be honest, as a new channel, is pretty mind-blowing. I really appreciate it, and honestly, I'm glad people are connecting with some of the stuff I'm putting out. I'm very new to this, but I'm looking to improve each time, and hopefully shows like this one will give you something to tune in for. But yeah, that's really all I wanted to say. Subscribe if you haven't, but yeah, keep an eye on this channel for us to keep growing and bringing out content that hopefully you connect with. All right, that is it for the weekly roundup. I hope you got something out of this, because it was pretty fun to do this. And as I get better at these, expect more content and more insights. Thanks for that one. I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.